Well, it's Monday morning, and I have to be honest and say it really feels like a Monday today. I see that I was like 2 minutes late, and I'm already getting dissed in chat. So that helps. So it's going to be maybe grumpy Monday, maybe kind of sleepy Monday. I'm not sure. You ever have one of those days? Yeah. Well, content. Yeah. Content? Do you want to be content? That word can be spoken two different ways. That's ambiguous. That's all part of the English language, right? It's like we want some content or we want to be content. Same word, same spelling. Yeah, take that, Chat GPT-4 or whatever you are. Yeah, we're going to do a flip here. And then I dropped this on the floor last week, the heads and tails flip sheet. As you noted, it's curved like this, so that just like the heat shield on a re-entering space capsule, it should almost always come up heads, because there, it's not flipping very well. I might have to give up on this and flip something else. Let's flip this paint bottle. There we go. A coin? Seriously? Flip a coin? How trite. I don't have a coin. Maybe that could be a gift. Someone could give me a coin and say, this is your flippin' coin. This is your flippin' coin. Just like that. Anyway, sometimes you might have a day where you feel like if you touch something, anything, it's going to break. And so you just don't want to touch anything because you know that whatever you do, you're going to break it, right? I'm feeling a little bit like that today. And fortunately, I'm not like gluing anything together or cementing anything. I'm just painting and doing painting touch-up. And if things go badly, as sometimes they do on this stream, you've seen things go poorly now and then. Yeah. Oh, a nines coin. That would be worth flipping. Painted though. Okay. Like it says, Submarine Week? What? Huh? It says, huh, what? I read it backward. Yeah, there's nothing else to paint, and so I was told, well, just keep doing your submarine. You like doing your submarine, don't you? You want to build your submarine, so just keep doing your submarine, and people will love it because, you know, you complain and whine about it all the time, about how hard it is and how things don't work and how the pieces don't fit and the paint doesn't go where you want it to. So, you know, everybody really kind of enjoys that. So, yeah, just go do that. But, as Who pointed out, this week, if we can find the nines coin, if there is one somewhere, I could do it prime, I could prime it, and I could spend Wednesday doing the nines coin instead of the submarine. So just as you say, this would be opposite week. This could be opposite week in that every day is submarine day except submarine Wednesday, which would be not submarine day. This is good. If I keep talking instead of doing something, then I'm not really touching anything and I'm not breaking anything. And I can't really break anything much by talking, I guess. But thanks for pointing that out. I need to try to find that. So sometime between now and tomorrow, so I can get it primed tomorrow in time for the stream on Wednesday morning. Well, how much time have I used up so far? Like only 5 minutes. Oh, man. Well, let me show you where we're at with the submarine. I'm not going to pick up the actual submarine hull and move it here to show it to you, because that's one of the things that I could definitely break by touching it. So I'm going to show you the stuff I'm working on. What I'm working on is the mess deck and the bunk deck. And just because it says mess deck doesn't mean you can use the hydrate button. And I'm trying to hydrate today, sort of. Yeah, so just because it says mess deck doesn't mean I'm given permission to mess it up. No, that's where all the crew members of the submarine come to eat. And I'm sure there's some sort of story that maybe someone can share in chat or later on in comments about why it's called the mess deck. Because I'm sure that the cooks who use this equipment back here in the galley do their best to keep it from being a mess. At least they should be. So, yeah, that. Anyway, I'm working on this in the bunk deck, and I've got these bunks sort of started. They are a mess and require a lot of touch-up. Actually, yes, the kit comes with a ton of little people. In fact, I'll show you this. The instructions even tell you where you're supposed to put the little people. Like here in the bunks in the torpedo room, that says put a sleeping little person in the bunk. And here on the sail, you're supposed to put somebody standing with their head sticking out of the top of the submarine. And another sleeping person in two sleeping people in the bunk deck. But the two more here. Apparently everybody on this submarine is sleeping. Like there's more people sleeping, but there's nobody standing up working in the galley. And I'll tell you to do that. Yeah, actually I could pull the parts out a little bit later and show you the little people that go on the sub. They are very, very, very badly molded, next to impossible to paint, and I think they would just look silly, to be honest, if I put them in. Here's the staircase that got painted last Friday. Yep, just made it metallic color. This floor. This is the floor of the bunk room with 2 coats of that paint. Actually, that turned out pretty well. And this is the mess galley, storerooms, bunks. And I'm going to paint a second coat on this probably sooner than later, because I need to do the brown touch-up on these benches. These are the benches for the tables. And since I am going to use the same color as for the bunks, I'll just do that at the same time. So one of the first things I'll be doing is putting a second coat on that floor. And then the rest of the day, the rest of the stream will be taken up. I'm going to be painting the bottom of the bunk deck, and that's going to be dark gray to match the inside hull of the submarine. This one gets a little more complicated because there's 3 parts to it, but I'm not going to be painting the bottom of this until all of these things are cemented in. You can see all of the holes here when it's inserted into the submarine. You look underneath, you can actually see them. So I'm going to wait until all those things are cemented in and then fill those holes in, sand it down, and paint the whole thing then. And there's just, blobs of paint. Yep, that's interesting. A lot of paint got there. And I'm also going to be then, after I'm done doing the touch-up and probably the bottom of this, just to get it done. Well, actually, no. This won't get the same thing here, right? Holes that need to be filled in. I take a chance? Yes, I will. If I get these touched up, okay, these 4 bunks, and that seems to be working okay, I'm going to actually cement the bunks into the bunk deck. The tricky part about the bunk deck is that this staircase goes here into this little hole here, and it rotates, it doesn't hold, you know, there's just no way to hold it, so cementing it's going to be very tricky. It's supposed to end up like there. The deck above it is supposed to line up with this square hole because that's the access to and from that staircase. You will note that there is no railing or anything, none at all, around the top of the stairs, so people are invited to just sort of drop in, I guess. So I'm going to have to play around with that to see how to make that work. Okay, this is weird. Didn't notice this before. There's always something. There's an extra hole in the deck. Okay. Lovely. Right here. Right here is another hole. And I didn't notice before that is for another set of stairs, just like this one, that goes up to the control room from maybe the officer's meeting room or whatever this is. Anyway, you can see that a lot of paint is getting into these slots, and that'll all have to be cleaned out later. Use a little drill, you know, get it off the sides especially because the cement has to go in there. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about getting an even coat of paint on here. Okay, so I'm going to keep talking because as long as I do that, I don't have to actually do anything. Don't touch it, you'll break it Monday. Yeah, so what I'm going to try to accomplish today is put a second coat on this floor, doing the touching up around the white here very carefully, and then using a bigger brush and making it look nice and even like this. Okay, then I'm going to get the brown paint out and try to make these look not messy, with nice even lines around the sheets, just little touches of brown and stuff. We'll see how that goes. I hope it goes well. These 4 bunks and then this one, okay? This one goes here for some reason just outside of the mess hall. There's another set of bunks that ends up going there. This gets painted the wall color, which is light blue, in the living area here. And then what I'm going to attempt to do is, and I'm not sure in what order, I'm going to try this out, just bear with me a minute. I'm going to put these bunks in their slots for just a second, because I'm really quite concerned about getting that stairwell put in. Of course, I've got so much paint in the slot here now that the bunks aren't going to fit. To clear it. So these go here like that. Yeah, these all worked before they got painted. No, they don't. And then the staircase goes in this tiny little slot here. There. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. If the bunks are put in place, I can't really get my fingers in there to do the stairs. And so the alternative is to cement the staircase in, hold it for the better part of forever. But the problem is holding it so that it matches up with the deck above it, and you can't see it matching up really. So these are put in place because that deck has slots where these bulkheads fit in. And I don't need to go out of my way to actually cement these into the bulkhead to get it fit. But when I'm looking at it like this, and of course none of this fits, right? When I'm looking at it like this, it's almost like I need to have this cemented together. Okay. And yeah, and then these wobble and they're not lined up. All these pieces need to somehow fit nicely together so that I can get that stairwell in there so that it lines up nicely. And it'd be nice if I could do that without putting the cement in place. Maybe I'll try rubber cement. Thinking instead of painting the bottom of this now, it makes more sense to wait until I've actually cemented these together. I don't know, the assembly of this thing is just really challenging. Yeah, fits. Did this when I was younger. It just somehow didn't seem to be such a challenge. I think I just slapped it together and it's like, oh, the pieces are more or less in the places where they're supposed to go, kind of. Showing you how this is supposed to go together. Mm-hmm. The good thing, see what I mean about touching it and breaking it? It's like everything, I'm just dropping everything I'm touching. Anyway, these pieces are supposed to go together like this. Those little bunks fit in here, and then that stairwell goes up through the center of all of that. But it's not possible to align the stairs until these other pieces are in place. So seriously, I really can't remember how I managed to do this when I was younger. I'm sure everything was just like crooked and kilter. At any rate, yeah, the insides of these are painted light blue. That's the color of the crew areas. Well, enough of that. Let's put the second coat on this floor, at least get something done, and then I'll let that dry a little bit. And then I'll do the bunks, touching up the bunks. So while that's drying, I'll be working on those. That's sort of efficient. And then I can come back and touch up these benches. As you can see, I'm trying to avoid doing things today, which is not good because I've got like 3 hours and 45 minutes to fill, which requires actually doing something during that time. Ah, well, on with it. Let's stir some paint. No, I'm not going to encase the sub in blue tinted rosin. Okay? Because I don't want to get rosin onto the sub itself. But a display case, that's a really good idea. You're coming up with like 2 good ideas today, Who? I wonder what's rattling here. That's your second good idea. Is painting a 9s coin was the first one. That was a good idea because that'll do non-submarine, the non-submarine Wednesday during Submarine Week. It makes sense that Submarine Wednesday would be the non-submarine day. And then the second is a display case, because this thing could really be a dust magnet with all of the detail on the inside. And it's the folding up and unfolding the hull, to reveal it and close it. It just doesn't work because the tolerances are not good enough to be able to do that. But I could do a custom display case, a box, basically. Could make a box, which I would then call a display case, and put blue rosin around it and kind of make it that way so that it would look like it's underwater. Maybe you could help with that, with more ideas. Stick this on here. Because there's no place to hold it. Okay, so I'm going to start by painting here. These are the spaces between the benches. I want those to look pretty good. Okay. With this smaller brush, which should fit in there without making too much of a mess. Maybe a little bigger one. I will continue to find ways to avoid doing things, since I'm touching up anyway. I'm just going to play with these brushes for a while so that, I'll use this one. It says, old Brogger pointed out once, with these acrylic paints, if things actually do go poorly, it's possible with like some denatured alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, to really and like a toothbrush to just remove the paint. Myself with that should disaster strike, I can always redo it. And I know I'm painting in the holes. I've got these nice little miniature drills. Easily. And then, clearing out the holes takes up time on the stream, so I don't have to do anything else at the same time either. But once again, this is Submarine Week, because I don't have anything else to paint. So I'll just have to live with Submarine Week, except if I can find the 9s coin. I can paint the 9s coin on Wednesday. That would be good. That we can complete the inversion of this entire week. Completely invert it by having submarines on every day except Wednesday, which has become now the traditional submarine day. Non-traditional, non-submarine day. This week only. Of course, the one area spot where the lines are uneven is where it shows most. Okay, so around here is space more about getting the boundary clean, almost more than getting it exact. Okay, that's a good spot. Okay, the back of this doesn't show. You can't see the back because it's way in the back. This is some sort of counter. I'm not sure what or why, but it is. There's a coffee pot that goes there and some sort of stand that goes here. Actually, been thinking about it. One of the things I'm actually going to do that is I'm going to install the coffee urn. I'll even do that before I do the brown touch-up, just because. Because then the galley would be virtually complete. There's nothing else there. There's some benches and a coffee urn. And I could say, what more do you actually need in the galley? You can see the big difference in the color between the just applied and the dried paint. Pretty significant difference in color. Okay, this is where I messed up last time. I got paint all over the front of the counter thing. Okay, well, this is actually kind of surprised that I have been keeping it on camera as I've been doing this. Sure. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to avoid touching up the bunks for yet just a little while. And I'm going to find the coffee urn. Some dirt or dust or something there. Find the coffee urn in the pile of tiny parts. And prep it. It's so small, there's no possible way I could There's just really no possible way that I can I'm going to let this set. I know I'm going to spill this. So if you're joining us now, about 10:30, you might be surprised to see that I'm not doing dungeon tiles because I don't have any. And so I said, well, what should I do on Monday? It was, well, just do your submarine. You like to build your submarine, so just do your submarine. That's just fine. So I'm doing my submarine. They didn't say it like that. Actually, it was, said pretty nice, but there wasn't anything else to paint at this point, and so I am doing the submarine, and this might be pretty much what I do this week. But who? Sea monster. What we need, okay, this is a submarine, right? And there's 20,000 leagues under the sea and these other submarine things, and there's always a kraken. Okay. A Cthulhu would be kind of cool, but I think what we need is a kraken. And when Who builds the rippled blue rosin display case for this to make it look like it's underwater, let's leave extra room in it and have a kraken coming up underneath the submarine in an attempt to pull it down and destroy it. That's what you should do with one of these little models, right? So when you're done building it, what better thing to do than destroy it? Okay, so this is going to dry, and then it will look okay. And then the touching up I need to do are these benches. That's the same color as these bunks, which need a lot of touching up. So I'm going to set it way aside because I really want to, touching things today. Somewhere in this, or maybe it's in here. These are chairs. There's 11 tiny little, practically invisible chairs. But somewhere in here, in this set of parts, is a coffee urn. This is the thing that goes next to the coffee urn. There's meat. There it is. Okay, it is actually so small. In-game boat. You know what might work for an in-game boat? I really hate to mention this because it's yet one more thing that I'm not skilled enough to do. Okay, I'm gonna take a chance here and pull something down. Okay, so bear with me a second. I don't know if it would be the right scale, but it might be close. Retired, and I said, I'm going to just build models because what else could I possibly do with my time? What else could I possibly do? So I started going on eBay and started finding all sorts of wonderful things that I would want to build, mainly airplanes, but also, a couple of really cool things like the Lotus Ford that won the 1965 Indianapolis 500. watched that on a large screen kind of broadcast, but it's also at the Henry Ford Museum here in Michigan, and that was kind of cool. But one of the very first models I bought, and this might work, is the America. That is the yacht that won the first cup, this trophy. And it wasn't called the America's Cup then, because it was the first time, but this yacht, the America, won that, which became called the America's Cup, and that's the model yacht. And this is, well, let's just say very challenging. It is a plank model. This is a model of the America yacht put together one plank at a time. So it's actually a wooden yacht. So what do you think? Do you think that would be this? I don't know. That would be kind of a cool. That would be kind of a cool ship for midnight brunch, don't you think? I mean, it's not real luxurious. It's a racing yacht. There is an underdeck. You can go down. You probably can sleep under there somehow. But that might be cool. If you think the Submarine would be a bad model to build, can you imagine me trying to build this? Anyway, let me get it out of the way. Just a thought. Okay, yeah, well, doing a pretty good job of avoiding stuff. But what I'm going to do here, this virtually impossible to see little thing, is the white background behind it is a coffee urn. It's, as you can tell, it's very tiny, and it goes right there. So what I'm going to do is clear out this hole. And then I'm going to, I don't know if you can see it, but there's pieces of plastic on here. Keep it from going in. And if I can get this to fit into that little hole, I'm going to paint it. There's one of those round things that's going to go in the back so you can't see it. I'm going to paint it and install it, because the most important thing in the mess hall coming out of the galley is probably the coffee, right? And then actually there will be this feeling of accomplishment as well. There's nothing that feels more like accomplishing something than actually putting something together. A couple of streams ago, I got the forward torpedo room installed, and that was like, wow, all those pieces are not just pieces in the tray anymore. They're all put together and painted, and they look okay. And it's important for them to look okay, and they're in the hull, and that part is done, allowing me then to move on to this, which is, as we'll see in a little while, really very challenging. But what wouldn't be hard is for me to, once these bunks were touched up, is to install them here But what would be difficult, what becomes difficult then, is installing that staircase. And that in itself wouldn't be too hard if that were just like floating in the middle of nowhere for no reason. But it's supposed to line up with this square hole in the deck above it. Okay. This is so small, it really can't be manipulated except by tweezers. There's even a spout on it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's this little thing sticking out that I'm assuming is not a flaw, but is intentionally the spout on the coffee. Yeah. Marks all around it. I'm counting on this being so tiny that you can't really see it very well, except that it will show up against. There's this magnet on the bottom of that but not quite fit. Anyway, you can see what it's going to look like, once it's installed. Need to file it down just a little bit more. Here, right near the top, where it fits in. It doesn't need to be that long. So this is why this model, see how much time it's taking just to fiddle around getting this tiny little thing to fit. All of these pieces here, the galley, the storeroom doors, the bulkheads, all of those, not a single one of those fits. Every single one of them has flashing on it and flaws that show, and none of them fit into the places that are made for them. So later on, after I get the bunks touched up and maybe installed and paint these bulkheads, I'm going to go back to prepping these. Get as many of these prepped as I can so that I can prime them, so that I can actually start installing them. But first, the coffee urn. Just makes sense that this tiny little thing would take forever. To be the back, that's where the major flaw is. Sorry, seeing something in the periphery of my vision. You're going to toss it aside. Make sure you toss it in the direction of the box. This is going to be my accomplishment du jour. I'm going to try to do this with my fingers. See that? That is that's going to be a thing I'm doing today. And the thing I'm going to do is now I'm going to paint this kind of bright. Used this before on the staircase and it almost worked. Get the alligator clip on this tiny little prong on the bottom. And then I'm going to paint this aluminum, which actually is supposed to be stainless steel, I'm thinking. These little bits of flaws in the mold, because everything about this is flawed. For those of you who, really need a cup of coffee, what do they call it? Probably a cup of joe or something. There's some sort of slang, no doubt, still hanging around. To get going in the morning, this is for you. I'm going to be painting this and then installing it. Find the right color though. I'm going to make it kind of shiny. I'm going to just use the aluminum paint. So is this a good use of time here? Of course it is. You need to have your coffee urn. Squeeze out a drop. I don't need anywhere near a full drop of this, but couldn't get it out otherwise. So here. It's going to be nice and shiny. And I know it's not primed, but priming this would be a real challenge, I think. Even some of these others I was using a spray primer, of course, and the parts are so small that even on its lowest setting, that still worked in terms of, spewing out primer. Even then, they went flying all over the place. And I probably should have put down some double-sided tape or something, right? But this is a show that talks about how not to do things, not how. Okay, there. So now we have a really shiny coffee urn. And a little bit later, I'm going to clean off a little bit of the paint on the little bit on the bottom there, the little prong. And I'm going to install that. There. And then the galley will be complete. You'll have benches to sit on and a coffee urn. And that's all they should need. Okay, well, enough procrastinating. It's time to try to fix these bunks so that they look presentable. And I'm going to move these tools out of the way. I'll explain the nails a little later, maybe. I have two brushes I can try to use because I need to get really detailed about this. I have this is the well-worn, short-bristled, fine-pointed detail brush, and then there's a new detail brush here that also has a very fine point. It's a little bit longer, and this might be good trying to get like in the back here, way in the back, trying to get paint there. And it has the bristle's nice and soft, so it might hold the paint well. I'm going to try this, and we'll just see how it goes. Yep. So, more relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons, Submarine Week. We're getting to about 11, so I can start talking about Dyson Dungeons. Dyson Dungeons is a group of relatives and friends who got together over a year ago to begin the Dungeons and Dragons campaign in a world that was created by our dungeon mistress, Alexis. A wonderful, creative, full of surprises, moderately deadly world in which we all are players. And we started that stream, well, we started playing, like I said, well over a year ago, and then decided that it would be interesting, why not, doing a D&D stream. I'm going to put on my head magnifiers for this. They sometimes look a little weird. There, I did. I finally dropped something. No, at least it didn't break. It was just a roll of tape. Yeah, so we started streaming that, and like a lot of players who just start off something, we started with a 1x1 plastic grid, on which our players moved when they were in contact with other characters, especially in combat. And then started streaming it that way. And then Alexis got a 3D printer. I've always wanted a 3D printer kind of thing. And said, well, since we have a 3D printer, let's print set pieces that we can set out. So we did, and you see those in the introduction to our stream if you were to watch the D&D campaign. There's some columns and tents and things like that. And they actually made like a small cavern at one point. Our first dungeon set. Well, the dust just isn't going away. So it is what it is. And then as time went on, got more and more elaborate and started making yet even more dungeon sets. Started experimenting with different ways of doing them. And finally, I started building some really significantly large dungeons. And so this painting stream started as like, well, if we're painting, it takes a little getting used to it. We're painting these things anyway. Why don't we stream that as well? Sometimes people like to watch people streaming painting. And I went, you got to be kidding. And it was, no, I'm not really kidding. That's true. And so we started streaming relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons, which is what this is. And we've been doing dungeon tiles, we've been doing minifigs, including the ones that are our own player figures, character figures. Okay, let's see. I'm going to keep this bottle outside of the box, because when I knock it over, the paint will just go dripping all over the place and not on the items. Yeah. So that's how this started, as a stream of us. Usually it was Nicole and I who started doing painting the tiles we used in our campaign. Back, there's this tiny little spot of brown where the brush slipped. You have to come back with the white and just put a spot of it right there. I think this brush the bristles are really soft. I'm going to try this next one. If I'm able to just slide it across the entire length without it slipping, it's not too bad. Have to be thinned a little bit. They come back with the white, and just where there's some evenness. Iterate back and forth until I get it so that it's adequate. Try the other brush on the next one and see which of them works best. Oh yeah, this is where I need to rotate the work because there's these significant flaws. Guess there's I'm just going to say they're kind of wrinkly sheets. And there's some little spots like there and there that I just want to put little bits of white paint on, maybe. That's not too bad. Let me try the other brush just to compare how well it's working. So there's 4 of these bunks. Put the cover on this. And the ones that turn out to look the best will be in the front, and the ones that don't look their best will be in the back. Some of this is, the paint is shiny when it's wet, and it's hard to tell if that's a place where it's white or it's where the paint is shiny. Too bad these things aren't quite magic. Okay, they let me see things up close. Focus. That doesn't necessarily mean that my hand goes to the right place or that it's steady enough. It'd be nice if these glasses not only made everything look bigger, but in fact, and equivalently, you guys say it that way. Keep iterating back and forth between the brown and the white. Eventually achieve an acceptable compromise in terms of where one ends and the other begins. Let's say it looks better. You know, again, it's not perfect. that the spots that need to be painted white are smaller. Yeah, I mean, this one's not too bad. So I'm just going to keep going here with this brush. And I think that when I'm done with these bunks, this will be dry enough I'll be able to touch up the benches. Yeah, I'm just getting quiet as I'm trying to spread paint. Just the right little tiny spots. I do these sailors justice because I know they're very, very careful when they make their beds. That's what I do. I don't recall if I rotated it adequately to catch the back. I'll have to go back and take a look. It's coming out pretty well. This might be a front row kind of bunk compared to the others. These looking at is from the top. They've done it before and after. Well, I can kind of. I mean, this one came out pretty well, so you can see like a before and after there, sort of. Yeah, so here we are relaxing as I'm doing tiny bits of touch-up on these bunks. We got onto where some of the brown should have been. Yes, I'm touching up. Some of the brown is going on to where the white should be. So there'll be an iteration coming back the other direction. This one's really pretty decent. Must have been like second to the last one I did or something. There's 4 of them, so the first 2, and then I probably said, okay, by the time I got to the 3rd, I kind of know what I'm doing. And then by the time I got to the 4th, my hand got a little shaky, or I got a little tired or something, and it didn't go so well. Yeah, that was me not relaxing painting. So along with the other one I did just before it. It'd be like front row bunks. This came out really pretty decent. There. And then the other 2, the first 2 I did, definitely need some white touching up. These guys. So I'll get to those later. There's this one. Okay, glad I hit that with the bottom. This one's really a mess. It's a triple decker thing. So we'll go at it and see how we do here. It's kind of a raised edge, and I'm just trying to catch the paint across that. Hope that it gets at the edge of the sheet as well. It's a nice even line anyway. Not quite right on the top. Okay, I mean it should go in a little further, but sheet on this. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but the way this is molded, you know, and I complain about how badly everything's molded, but it's one of those odd things is that they, amidst the very bad molding, is amazing detail. Well, the way this is set up is that these sheets are like inset a little bit. There's a ridge here that should be the edge of the bed. Not sure I can pull that off. I really should try though, because it's especially the top bunk that shows. Let me get these more or less right along the front edge where it really shows badly. Let me do this first, and then I can mess around trying to get the indent of the sheets. Thing just went fuzzy, meaning double vision. There we go. Well, you can see that those are better than that. To do, let's hold my brush at a slight angle here so I can get the paint even, but just a little bit around the edge of the top. And see, it didn't work. I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to leave the rest alone. This just kind of looks okay, other than the place where I tried something that didn't work. But that's just a tiny touch of white. I should be able to fix that. I'm going to declare this. There's a spot here. Declare this except for this one place where I made a mistake, a success. So this touching up part has gone pretty well. And now I'm going to touch up the benches. I don't really need these now. being by. This page doesn't go. Yeah. Part of it is kind of dark on dark, not being able to see exactly where the tip of the brush is against the dark. So here I'm painting brown. See my thought this was going to be really quick and easy, but it's proving to be a challenge because of a lack of steadiness in one's hand. There's just more paint up along the side of the bench than I thought there would be. Like here. And then trying to get a nice, smooth, even line. But not quite. So these are taking a little longer than I expected, but they show they're right on the edge, the front edge of the models, so they need to be done pretty well. To do a little touch up with the floor color again, maybe in a couple of spots. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is actually turning out to be harder than the bunks. Not what I expected. Oh, no, I'll have to go back over it with the other paint. Just not being able to get a really nice straight line here. Should have been a little more careful, a little slower when I painted the floor to begin with. Since the most important part is like the forward half of each of these benches, because you're definitely going to be able to see those looking at it. Another one of those, you look at it from one direction and it looks good, and then you'd flip it over and it's just not. Let's at least get the tops of them cleaned up. Well, the further along this one, the better it looks. You can see the vibrations in my hand turn into little squiggles. No. But I haven't broken anything yet. It's kind of a surprise because this day started out with the feeling of, as some days do, don't touch anything. If you touch it, you'll break it. It's the kind of thing. This is not the kind of day one wants to be wandering around in the Oxford Crystal section or something. Some spots in the front here. I'm going to try to get shaky today. Maybe it's just the angle of the brush, the way I'm holding it here. Let me just look around to make sure that I didn't miss any really huge, obvious places. Look at, how did I do that? Oh, I know. Yeah, nice. What I managed to do was touch the brown paint with my little finger here that I'm using to support stuff, and then touch there. You know I'm going to have to use that touch-up color anyway in a little while. Do that. Just these little spots. So I'm going to be doing a touch-up with the floor color. I'll fix that. Fortunate that I managed to do that. But this is looking adequate again. Okay, how am I doing? Okay, around the time before the break. To make sure that that brown paint is really quite dry before I do the white touch-up on that or the touch-up on this. So what I'm going to do next is, you might remember, there was this little guy, the coffee urn. Okay. It's now dry. I'm going to take it out of the clip here. I'm going to see if it still fits in the hole because there's not paint on it. Now, this is pretty exciting stuff. Try not to lose it. And I'm going to get a tiny, tiny little bit of this cement and very carefully put a drop in that hole. I think maybe I can do that. We'll see. And then we will have installed the coffee urn. What do I need? I need a tiny piece of paper onto which to squeeze a little drop of this. This, for some reason, I've mentioned before, there's a block in it. Okay, so if I take this really fine wire, which is supposed to open things up, and I slide it down, there's a block. And I think what happened is when this was first, maybe it'll come out. I had to like break this open, drill it out. I think there's a little piece of polystyrene plastic in here, and it keeps dissolving and then rehardening. With my unsteady hand, to get the cement into this hole. It's in there. If not, this will not hold and it'll come out. I mean, if you get it oriented correctly. The coffee urn at the end of the counter there. I've accomplished something today. I did that. Yeah. So I think this is dried far enough now that I can get the white paint out and do the touch up on these sheets? And if so, these bunks will be done. Well, I use this white. Almost spilled that. It was off camera, but it would have, what I did anyway. Yeah, I just caught the lip of it a little bit. Okay, what I'm going to try to do here, let's hopefully accomplish it, is there's little bits of brown where I want the sheet to be white. That was a fail. Little bristle of the brush. One thing I have to say for model cement is it has an odor that is very, very strong. It was bad. I'm just going to try to wipe it off. I'm going to have to bring the brown paint out again. It's just, the paint is like either too viscous or I'm not sure what it is, but I want like a dot paint there and it just wouldn't dot for me. For whatever reason, the edge is just not even. Yeah, just a little bit of brown touch up will probably fix that. You get the same issues here where there's just like these little dots, tiniest little spots that need to be white. That one worked. Too bad it just looks like there's some wrinkles in the sheets. That was a weird noise. Yeah. I think the microphone filters out almost all the background noises, so you can't hear some of the things in the background. A little too far. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back and play with the brown paint, the tiny little dots where it didn't work quite well. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, there was this one. I almost forgot about it. This one place where I tried something that did not work. Okay, I'm going to declare. Oh, okay. Yep, this is rotated this way, and there are. When I get the brown paint out, I'll fix that. Now I'm going to retouch the floor there. I had smudged it, and where there's some uneven lines. Start with these up here. I'm going to put these back on. I just need more light there, if nothing else. The lines aren't perfect. Yeah. I don't know what's with this one. The texture's wrong or something, but I need to touch that up again. And then these where I smudged it. So I'm going to kind of spread it around. This is a lesson that has been learned many times over the streaming sessions, painting with dice and dungeons, which is don't stick your fingers in the wet paint. That's the first part. And the second part is if you do anyway, don't touch any of the other painted surfaces. And it seems like, not every time that I paint, but with some frequency, I fail on those lessons. You know, think about this is I'm very carefully, just little edges right on the front of these benches. Is no doubt that when I paint the front of this, the dark gray, which is the color of the hull that I use for the cutaways, without a doubt, I will be getting the paint on there. No doubt. Speaking might say. Need to let that set for just a bit. I need to get the red brown out again and do some tiny little bits of touches on these bunks. And then the bunks will be done. And what I will need to do next is go to the floor here and clean out these slots, clean some of the paint that got in there when I painted the floor. Do that with some care so that these bunks will now fit again. Okay, the red brown paint, here it is. Can't see up close. You can't see up close. There it is. Knew that it was a very obvious spot. It's still not quite right, but it's very hard to get the paint there. About as good as I can get. I would say that looks okay. We'll put that in the okay pile. These just got ragged edges along the way. These from, yeah, to adequate. How many more bunks there are on this ship? Quite a few, actually. And you'd think that maybe by now they'd be becoming really good at it, but they are very challenging. Painting the other side. These are two-sided. These bunks on this side, but this side is away from the front of the sub and will not show. Definitely will not show. And so it's okay. Well, I'm going to declare this a success as far as it goes. And I do not like that right there at the back. That part will show because it's right on the edge. I'm going to go back to the floor color and see if I can't get that edge just a little bit better without, up to it without going over kind of a Price is Right situation here. I was hoping to do. Right. Um, what I'll be doing next is taking a break after I clean this brush. A quick review. I touched up the bunks. That took out, obviously. Did the second coat on the floor here, which makes it look okay. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do a third coat. Actually, I should. But it would look a lot better with a third coat. So I'll probably do that. Maybe I'll even do that like real quickly before break. And what I'm going to do after break is clean up the slots here so that the bunks fit. And then I'm going to paint one side of each of these bulkheads. I hope I don't mess things up by doing this, but I think it will look better with a third coat. I'm going to try not to take chances here with painting over. I have to do some cleanup later in some of these spots here where the openings are getting very painted in. But usually clearing paint out of the slots isn't all that hard. But I hope that was worth the effort to do that. And just put that way out of the way. Okay, so what I'll be doing after break is cleaning the slots on the floor here and fitting the bunks into them so that the bunks fit. And I think what I'm going to do, I know this is sort of taking a chance, is I'm actually going to cement the bunks into place so I know what I'm working with. It will make it harder to get that stairwell in, but I can't put that in until almost the very last bit of assembly, because it has to match up with an opening on the deck above it. So, in fact, what I'll probably be doing is these bulkheads. The back of this bulkhead is painted dark gray because this is up against really the music stopped again. Okay. This is the ballast tank in the hull. And this little bit at and below here will also be painted the dark gray, but I can't do that until this is dry because I have to set it down. On this one, bit underneath here and the bit underneath here are that dark gray. That'll be pretty straightforward. On the rest of these, above this is where the floor sits. Okay, above it is light blue. It's the color on both of these. That's the color of the crew compartments. So again, when I get back from break, I'll be cleaning these slots and then probably cementing these in just to get it done. And then this part here is also painted light blue. You know, this is going to be painted green because this is where the gyroscope goes. I could paint the light blue. It might require 2 coats. I might just do that on both of these bulkheads because they go up against here. And then as I have that color out, I can paint this. And if that goes well, this is a little doorway. I can cement this in to the other floor as well. And I can get a fair amount of construction done and get these parts a little bit out of the way so that I can, with the rest of the time, prep more pieces for priming for maybe painting on, I'm guessing, Friday, because if I can find the 9s coin and paint that on Wednesday, I can have not submarine Wednesday during submarine week. Tiny little bits of spots that I just, man, really, really am not happy about. Right here, I know I should be on my break now, but I'm just, this top bunk right in the middle, just this tiny little spot is driving me to distraction here. Fix it, and I will be able to take a relaxing break, or it will make it worse. Regret it, I don't know. Okay. There's that one little spot. It's like a pinpoint. Get it neither brown nor white. And part of it is that the tip of the brush is not where I thought it was. It's not working either way. Okay, I'm going to let that set. I'm going to come back and I need to touch it with just the tiniest touch of white paint. It's the middle bunk on the top. And it's right at the foot of the bed. And there's this little spot here that just is uneven and it's obvious compared to the rest of them. It needs to dry, and then I need to touch it with white paint. That will be the thing I will do when I get back. Okay, I do need to take a break. I will be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, see you then. We will continue with Submarine Monday. Oh, okay. There was a break. I'm going to start by trying to, after going back and forth like 4 times, fix this one little bunk, this one little spot on this one bunk again. Okay. And after I do that, hopefully this time, I am going to then clean up this and install these bunks. And I think that's definitely what I want to do, because once those are in place, I can fill the gaps in underneath with the putty. And then the next steps would be to sand it down, and then I can paint the bottom. Okay. So that's kind of the cycle of things that I will hopefully be accomplishing during the stream the rest of the day. So close. To be like this tiniest fraction of a millimeter. Okay. I'm just going to call this success. Because if I mess with it anymore, I will mess it up. And then would have to keep going back and forth until the paint is like an eighth of an inch thick or something. Okay. So I can put this away now for the moment. And what I'm going to be doing is working with little drills and little files, and I'm going to be cleaning out the slots here. Reef. These little spots show up just for no particular reason that weren't there before. Okay, there's this in the military, especially in the Army Air Force during World War II, there were these things called gremlins, because things would go bad, things would go wrong, and there'd be no reason at all. Like the mechanics would install a new engine on the plane. The thing was completely overhauled. It was tested and retested. Everything was working perfectly. And then it came time to start it and it wouldn't go. And it was almost always things that were triple and quadruple checked, just over and over again. And then they would turn out, how did this get magnetized? Just why? I think I need the one file that I don't have out. And that's tiny little file that is square. And the reason for that is that these are square on the ends. The important part of getting the edges done is that that's what makes the slot smaller. And if the slot is smaller, then the tab doesn't fit into it. That file is still too big. I'm just going to worry at it slowly with the X-Acto knife here. The X-Acto knife is actually a good thing to run across these sides as well. Okay. So that should work. We'll see. We'll see if it does. The nice thing about this right now is that the bunks will completely cover these slots and most of the floor around them. Okay, if you look at them like this. So, you know, if I mar the floor a little bit, like I just did there, it is not the disaster it would be in some other places on this model. Again, just cleaning these slots out, and I'm going to test fit the bunks, because I really would like to get those cemented in, even though it will make installation of the stairwell much more difficult later. I know that will happen. It's going to be very difficult anyway. So if it's more difficult, it's not like going from easy to hard. It's just like going from, pretty hard to, quite hard. But the advantage of doing it now is that I can fill in the openings on the bottom. And if I fill in the openings on the bottom, then I can paint the bottom dark gray and have that done. So this one slot among the slots seems to have accumulated a lot of paint. Not really sure why that is compared to the others, but it is. I mean, other than avoiding like cutting my fingers off or something with the X-Acto knife, this is a little more relaxing than painting those bunks, which was not very relaxing at all. Okay, what I need to do here is I need to look at the 4 bunks, and I need to pick the ones that are least bad. This one's okay. This is the front. I'm going to put them in kind of in this order. So let me get these to fit. This is getting them to fit one at a time. That one fits. It's good. This one now fits as well. When I'm cementing these, you can see the gap underneath here. And the one in the back, when this is cemented into the hole, the one in the back won't show, but the ones in the front will. And that's why I want to fill them in. And it's good practice. It'll be a good practice way to see how the fill works. This one will be easy. And then I'll sand down the bottom. This one was the one with the most paint in. It's the best. Okay. Okay, so I'm ready to do some minor assembly here. I'm going to be putting cement inside of these slots, okay? And then putting the bunks in. And the nice thing is that once they're in, I just need to make sure that they're kind of pushed down and hold them for a minute or two. And then it just lays flat. So I don't have to worry about it, tipping over or sagging or anything like that. I mean, there shouldn't be any of that once they're in. The other thing, I'm kind of not wanting to do this, but I am going to, is I'm going to put a little bit of cement on either side here on the flat part. Okay, it doesn't show, but it will actually hold better. And I'm doing this because the cement welds the plastic. It actually dissolves it. And if there's paint on it, it has to dissolve that. And it can either affect its ability to adhere or sometimes it just won't at all, or the paint will run and make a mess. Okay, let's get this out and see what we can do here. I think I'll be able to just apply it right using the pinpoint accuracy of this applicator. There we go. It's supposed to put out just tiny little drops at a time. And we're going to just stick these on now. to get something on my finger. There's always, touching things, right? So there, that's how the bunk level is going to look when you look at it from the side. The other deck, this deck, is almost that close to it. And guys, you can't see into it too terribly far. But and yeah, just well, yeah, the sheets. I really needed to touch that up with brown, and I still will do that after this sets. This one sheet right here is just too far up the side, and I didn't really see it very much until I said, okay, let's look like what it looks like with the deck. And then when you're looking at it at exactly this angle, it's pretty clear that it's not very good. So the ones behind it have their own flaws. I'm going to fix that a little bit later. What now? I don't want to mess with this until it sets, so I'm not. I'm just going to let it set. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the openings in this, because I can't really fit the pieces into it if the holes are the problem. This tiny little drill just to ream out the paint from these openings. These are like little tables going here. Mm-hmm. So those are tables. This is another staircase. Which will have the same issue as the other one. This one leads to an opening on the deck above it. So we still have that to deal with. These round tables, I think. No, that's a double. That's a smaller version of these tables, and this is a round table. This is a tiny little square table that goes here with one chair. Maybe this is like the timeout table or something. Pieces that fit into these things are, anyway, I'm going to be spending like forever cleaning them up and getting them to fit. Chairs, well, these little bitty chairs, two of them go here, and one here. I quite understand some of these are not round. There's a lot of holes in this deck. There's just so many little things that go in here. These are all these little chairs. 8 little chairs go around this one table. Tiny little table. And there's 3 on each side and 1 on each end. Sure, when I did this kit originally, I was not paying this much attention to the detail of getting these chairs in place. These bits here, various and sundry walls go in. I prepped a few of these in an earlier stream. And as I start prepping things again, I will find those and show you where they fit. It's like a double challenge. One challenge is that the tabs that go into these slots are not well formed. The other is that these slots have paint in them now. It's misshapen. And we'll just have to clean them all out. And then fit the parts in one way or the other, either by continuing to try to clean out these slots, which I'm doing now. Do it from the bottom to scrape some of the paint out. So it's, continuing just manipulating slots and tabs until the parts fit where they should. And it isn't essential that they are very tight because they do get cemented in, but they need to fit all the way down. And then you can see from the bottom, if you look at this, this goes above the other deck, but all these holes will show. So after this stuff is cemented in, I'll be like I am with the bunk deck. I'll be filling in the holes and sanding it before I paint the bottom of the deck. The bottom of the deck actually gets painted different colors in different places because it covers 3 compartments. One compartment is the bunk deck, and that's painted light blue. Another compartment is the servo room, gyroscope, I guess. And that's painted green. And the third is the ballast tank, and that's just painted dark gray. If I were a better modeler, I would have done something so that these didn't get all gummed up like this, instead of painting and then cleaning later. But I'm not. So this is the way I fix it. Doing this in anticipation of getting the parts that fit into these slots to fit into them. And when you see, if you watched some of the earlier Submarine streams, you know that that's going to take a fair amount of work because the molding process is very bad. This is, I'd say, pretty good. At least it's good enough to be able to start. There's plenty of adhesion points for the cement. There isn't anything that should be blocking the these things from going in. This particular one stays open, so actually these walls, things should be painted the floor color. This one has way too much paint on it. But at some point, I need to remember to just get out and just put a light coating of the floor color paint in from the bottom. This is where the staircase comes up. Okay. Then yeah, it doesn't look as nice as I would like it to, but it should work. This thing goes here. There's a set of bunks that actually is separated by a wall or a bulkhead that goes along here. It's like a wardroom or something back there, I guess. But there's a bulkhead that goes across here that hopefully here. And closes this off. And this becomes, this area here becomes like a little work area because there's a clock and lockers and a library. And then this goes, yeah, maybe in the other order. This has to go underneath that. And they're supposed to match like that. So maybe I'm not going to cement that in because this needs to go in first. It goes in first and this goes in second, and that forms a doorway like that, but it's not, it doesn't all fit right. I can still paint that the light blue color though, because that's the color it needs to be. Okay, but this part fits at least. And then I can set this aside. Well, I can't because I have to fit parts to it, right? Like this part doesn't fit. It's the presence of paint in this slot. Part of it is that the tab is a little too big. Really shouldn't mess with this anymore. The paint on the floor is not exactly totally dry yet. For some reason, I thought I caught those. This is really annoying. There's these like a speck of dirt or something got into the paint. I'm going to try a little bit later. I'm going to get some really fine sandpaper and I'm going to sand this down. It's got 3 coats of paint on it, so I should be able to smooth it out. Especially right here. This is going to show quite a bit. So I'm going to work on that at some future time. So the question now is I need to get out the brown paint and do that little bit of touch up that I said I was going to do. And then I'll be able to set that aside for a little bit. Cap this up so I don't spill it. Set this aside. Get the little bit of brown paint, and I want to fix this bunk right here. Try to do that without causing a disaster in the other direction. And shake that because this has been shaken up before. And I don't need very much. And I need to be very careful in my application of this. Except for one tiny little spot here. It looks much better. Yeah, I mean, so given the level of okayness of the rest of this is now a little bit more okay than it was before. Put a tiny little bit of white on that, because in my effort to fix the tiniest spot that you couldn't even see, I managed to go back to that with a touch of white in a few seconds. What I'm going to do then, after that, actually before that, is that the insides here, these go like this, and form a bulkhead on either side, is these need to be painted light blue here and here. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to paint the back. I don't know. Either way, if I turn them over, if I put them on a paper towel and something soft, it should be okay. Is white paint any good anymore? No. Yeah, let it dry. Don't mess with it. I'm going to paint these light blue now. And that's going to be the walls on the inside. And then the bottom gets painted dark gray, because that's the whole color. This gets painted dark gray as well on this side, this whole bulkhead, because that's the ballast tank. And then this side is dark gray on the bottom and green on the top, because this is the servo room. This will work. If I clip this like that, okay, that's the dark gray side. I can hold it and set them in this little holder thing and not have to worry about setting down the painted surface. The only place that won't work is on this side, where the whole thing is painted dark gray, but that's okay. I'll do that later. Okay. Yeah. Just trying to get things as much painted as I can. No bother. Yeah, I can't wait to see it done either. Yeah, this is Submarine week, because I didn't have anything else to paint. So I'm just plugging away at the sub. I've got the floor to the mess hall pretty much done. I need to do a little sanding on it to even something out. This is the bunk room. And if you stay at a respectful distance, it doesn't look too bad. This actually goes on top of that like this before it's inserted. So you can see there's not a lot of room to maneuver in your bunk room. Okay. And there's different glosses of paint there. It's just really annoying. I should stop playing with these things until the cement sets, But anyway, that's something to it's a little distracting, is that there are sections in there that are just shinier than the rest of them. I'm not sure what caused that, because it's the same paint. Why? 200 to, well, that's 200 more than I have right now. You should ship some over, and maybe I'll feature them on the show. Where did this come from, and why? So I should stop playing with that, and especially this bunk here that popped out. Stir this paint up. So this is the light blue, which is supposed to be pleasant, like a pleasant environment for the crew areas, the bunk area and the mess hall. I painted this color. But I am actually making progress with this thing. It's kind of surprising, but when I look back at it, it is further along than it was when I started. I guess that's kind of obvious, isn't it? That if you keep doing something, eventually something gets done. Thank you. Thanks for joining in. Okay, so all I'm going to be doing is taking this larger brush and painting light blue paint, leaving hopefully a few brush marks down to the top of this. Okay. And eventually I'll have to scrape off the paint off the very top of that because that's where it gets cemented. But paint's going to get on it in order to get it on the rest of the wall. So that is that. So this is the inside of the bunk room. Actually, this is the inside on this side of the bunk room. Light blue paint has been known to cover pretty well. I may end up having to put 2 coats on, or it might be okay. We'll see. It's pretty relaxing. Wow, this paint is just like setting up so fast. Actually, really not good. Hardly get the brush across it. We'll see how that ends up looking. Just getting thicker and thicker as I try to brush it across. The first one went really well. This one not so good. Okay, we'll just put it on heavy like that. So I'll just do the same thing here. That stuff pretty much just dried before I could even get it on. We'll see what it looks like when it dries. As I've said with this paint before, you can always take it off. Now, if I need to level this, I'm going to do it with sandpaper rather than the brush because it's already tacky. Next thing I'm going to do is fix, once again, part of the bunk where I thought I would fix something and it just made it worse. So need to get the white paint out again. Bitty brush. And it was here. Right. I too. Oh man, really? As I approached the work with the brush, I managed to bump it into a previously painted area, making it a mess as the paint sets up on the brush. Okay, this is getting to the point where I have to be very careful not to do anything that requires careful touch. Okay, well, it fixed most of what I did before. Gotten to the point where if I do anything more, it is just going to be a bad idea. So these guys just need to set in place there. All this paint needs to dry. There's a spot there on that I probably just need to lightly sand down. It's just going to be this area right here, this floor area, where the floor shows quite a lot, but it also is the place where there are the most flaws in the paint. I'm not sure why there are, but there are. Pieces of dust or dirt or something got on it. But there's this wide open area where there's nothing there except the floor, and that's where the paint is most not good. So that'll be a thing to fix. You can see the bunks go here, and there's a bulkhead here, so it's just this rectangular area. And if worse comes to worse, I can just sand this whole thing down, and paint it as a separate entity. And that just might be it. I might just have to sand down this area where it's really lumpy. The paint kind of got up. It has a different gloss to it. That will be one of those repairs that I keep talking about that can be done. But now what I really am going to do is there's a little bit of time left. And this is setting, and I don't want to mess with it any more than I have already. Okay. I was going to put plastic putty underneath here, but I decided I'm going to wait until these are set. I'm going to get pieces out and start getting them to fit. This is the staircase that goes amidst the bunks. I'd already done some, but now they're just lumped in here and kind of lost to the world. I need to keep out the ones that have been prepped versus the ones that haven't. This is one that has. This goes here. It fits snugly, but it does fit. This is cold storage, and this is room temperature storage. There's a divider that goes between them. That had also been prepped before. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this side here goes on that side. It's supposed to go in here and slot in seamlessly as it does into that wall. Okay, so that's a good thing. And then there are parts to the kitchen. I started working on these earlier. This one goes here. The way this works is there's actually going to be doors in front of this. And it makes it look like you walk in and that there's some shelving units in the back. Okay. And this, as you can see, is part of the galley. It's got some cupboards there. And this isn't quite ready for prime time. Really close. But as I'm looking at it, there's some flashing, I'll call it, that extends over the front here. These cabinets will be interesting. They have a raised edge around them, and I'm going to try to paint this white and get the raised edge and the cabinet handles red because 1960s kitchens were like that. They were white with red trim. So I'm just piecing these pieces in here, temporarily, because I want to get them to fit before I paint them. Here. One in the others, I think. This one isn't quite ready. This one's really cool. It's got cabinets in the front, pots and pans hanging, a faucet. Okay. It's not in terribly bad shape. There's a little bit of flashing on the edge here. It just needs to be taken off. The major issue with this is my nemesis, circle marks. And it's hard to see them. It's right up along the top here. There's these little half circles. And so what I want to do is file the top of this nice and evenly until those circle marks are gone. You probably would never see them in most cases, but I really am not a fan of having all of that detail and then have it be marred by just something dumb like that. This doesn't go up very high because the next deck actually touches the tops of all of these. So this goes here like this. And it's just the one tab in the middle. And the way it's supposed to work is that it folds over and makes contact with here like that. And that's a little spot that needs to be kind of filled in or smoothed off at some point. You're not supposed to see that seam. I'm not sure how much I'm going to mess with it. We will find out. This one here has condiment containers, and that completes the kitchen, the galley, by going here and actually goes underneath this. So this one, that goes on last. So I probably will, yeah. Oh, and this goes on top here, just making it really crowded. We'll worry about that later. I have to take, this has to go on before those go on. And that isn't what happened here. So, yeah, since I've got a little bit of time, I'm going to just continue to do some prep work on these pieces to get them to fit. And at the same time, you can begin to see how the galley is meant to come together. But it's like every single piece has flashing on it from where the mold was. There was a little gap in the mold, so a little plastic oozed into it. In some places, there are these stupid little circles that I keep trying to get rid of. The flaws that are forgivable are this little tab up here. That's where it attached to the tree, the thing that holds all of the parts together when it's molded, kind of the channel for the plastic to come in the mold, I guess, more than anything. And if one carefully cuts them off the tree, you always cut it off so that there's excess plastic on the part. Okay. Because that can always be filed or sanded off. If, though, you break them off, you can end up with a divot in the part, and then it's just a lot of work filling that in and shaping it later so it doesn't show. I'm going to take this one off because this other one needs to go on first. Just like this, there's this little gap in it, and the tab goes over the top of it to make it look seamless, theoretically. All these galley bits are supposed to be painted white, like this. And that way I will do. I only have to paint the fronts of them. The backs of none of these show. Even this one, that back doesn't show because there's a partition that goes across there that blocks it off. Closed doorways, basically. These are open doors here. This top isn't going to show because the deck above it will touch it, but if that tab is on there, that little excess plastic, it won't fit. It'll get hung up on that. And then I wouldn't know that until I try to put it together, and then it's kind of too late, right? So let's see if this will fit. And it just kind of doesn't. Clear out a little more paint, maybe. What I'm looking at, for the most part, is the flashing on the tab is keeping it from going into the slot. In one of these pieces, the tab didn't even line up with the slot. I mean, it didn't. They were like in different places. This one, it seems more like, yeah, it doesn't quite line up either. I think they're a little bit too thick. Take that off from the back because it's less likely to show in the back. The other thing that happens is that their base, where this part of it than the top, and so they'll go like 2/3 of the way in and then not go in any further. So this is another reason why the submarine is taking so long, is that especially when there's lots of little parts like this, when they don't fit, each one needs to be manipulated until it does. And it really is not going in. Entirely sure why. Yeah, just not. Continue to make them smaller. Not too big a problem because they will get cemented in anyway, and that will hold them. But I think they are too thick. So having to take more off the back here. I got most of the paint out. Looks like they line up. This is really kind of baffling right now because I took a lot of plastic off. They're fairly small now, the tabs, but they just do not fit into the slots. And I think the problem is that they continue to be too thick. So yes, please bear with me as I attempt to do what I need to do to get these parts to fit into the floor. This is why it's important to test fit all of your parts. Yeah, see, finally that's working. That goes there. I'm going to do this thing next. This is that little shelf unit that goes on the top of this. Okay. We've got the tab that, the little extra stuff that you get from the tree. And that comes off pretty easily. I'm just going to sand that down. And then the front of this, even though you really can't see it, it's got these little circle things on it. And I'm going to take those off. Look at me, there's no place to hold it. You just do one, I'm going to do one side at a time. Well, with this, I have most of the galley done. One more piece, that's the door. Closed door and open door here and here. See if I can get this to fit on there. Yeah, I was kind of afraid of that. The white. No, I guess that fits okay. I was afraid that the white paint would be a problem up in front, but that goes into the hole. I am going to take the X-Acto knife, though, and right in the back here, I'm going to clear off a little bit of this white paint. It's not affecting the fit that much, but it will affect the adherence of the cement. Definitely can't see it back here, so I can pretty much take all of that paint off. Will be a good thing. This particular piece really has me baffled. I mean, it just really seems to be in the way. It blocks the view of all of this gorgeous detail here. There's all this detail on this part of the galley in the back. Let me put this back in. The view is supposed to fit on the top of each of these other pieces. And if it fits together, so it kind of does, see, like that. See, you can see all of that detail, but if you put that table in, it just blocks it off. And I don't know why it's even there, to be honest. I think if I were going to go through all the trouble of painting in the detail of the pots and pans and canisters and stuff, and I am going to bother with that, I am not going to put that on. Okay? I'm just not. Or maybe what I'll do, let me set it in there and see really how bad it is. I guess it's okay, to modify your model if you don't like what you see. Hard to see on camera, right? It's hard to show it on camera what this does. But I see no reason for that to be there. It's very crudely molded. Spacing. What I might do, and this is a modification that I can do, is I'm going to cut the top off. You know, if there needs to be like a little shelf there, and it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense that there'd be like a little serving shelf there for like breads and stuff. But if I cut it off here, you know, down there, I cut it off down there, it wouldn't block the view, and there'd still actually be a little bit of the table there. You might say that's kind of an extensive modification, but I really don't like what it does to the model. Put this back just so you can see what we're dealing with here. Is you get this really nice galley here, and this does look a little unfinished. Okay. Yeah, it's blocking that middle section anyway. Is this table is going to just be at this height. I'm going to cut this whole top off. That disappear. Okay, one more piece. Let's do the closed doorway. This finishes off. Yeah, you have to look around. All those nice little spice canisters and stuff kind of get cut off by this, but you know, well, that's the way it is. This actually seems to fit pretty well. So the issue here, again, is just this tab. But right in the front, right there, right where you can see them, are these circles. So those are going to disappear. Me filing across the top and down the side. These are raised, which makes it a little bit easier because I'm mainly filing them. Circle gone. So this galley is going to be one of those you won't be able to see it, but I'll know it's there kind of details. I understand why when I was a kid I just painted the whole thing white, and who would have known that there were pots and pans hanging from the hooks above, or that there were condiment canisters, right? Wouldn't know what you were missing. This goes here like this. Here we start seeing how the galley comes together. And then there's a doorway that goes across here, closes off the storage units. And then These are supposed to fit in a way that are seamless up at the top. That's not going to happen. So we'll just do our best. But we're getting the pieces together here. This is doorway. This piece is really a mess. Like that. Maybe I'll save that. And then this bulkhead here, these little prongs are where there's meat that hangs on those. I'm just going to do this now. If it fits, there isn't too much more to do. So I'm thinking I may end up doing, just to move this along, hopefully I'll have something to paint on Wednesday, but if not, I'll be either doing some prep work on that. There is a special coin, Nine's fungible token. And we have a prototype that was printed on the rosin printer, I think, yeah. So, and if I can get that prepped, I might paint that on Wednesday. And I'll do that and then spend the rest of the stream doing all these little tables and chairs, tiny little tables, and even tinier chairs. The open hatchway, which is at the top of the stairs, it's convenient as you come up the stairs. And the hatchway, you know, it would be nice if the hatch was right there, but no, you have to get up and walk around. But this piece, which I borrowed from another set, because the one that was with this kit, not set, the one that came with this kit was really badly warped. It was bent. This one's bent a little bit, but that one was bent a huge amount. Okay. The other side, right, facing this way, is plagued by these circles. So I'm going to have to file down most of this. But that will be another day. So let me set this in here. Imagine that this is here with these open doors, okay? And all of these pieces, if they fit together, form the galley in the storage room. And up here are tables. All right. So we're getting pretty close to being able to put the galley together. These pieces here are ready to be primed. And for the most part, these are all painted white. And this piece here is where this comes in contact. Okay, you can hardly see it, but behind that open door, that's white on one side and then the light blue along here. Okay. And the light blue, this one came out okay. Okay. This is the one that goes on this side, like that. It's the one I painted first, right? This other one did not come out okay because the paint was setting up on me. I'm going to let it dry and see if the gloss evens out. But this might be a really fine emery cloth kind of situation where I need to bring that down. The same thing is true of the floor here. This part of the floor between, there's bunks that go across here like this. Wall that goes across here like this. Part of the floor inside there, which will show significantly, very significantly when it's done. This section here is just badly painted. So I'm going to rub that down with some really fine emery cloth to see how it evens out. And if worse comes to worse, I'm just going to depaint it and paint it over. Yeah, so these parts are not done yet. And these little pieces, doesn't look like much, but will represent a lot of work. Will have to be primed and painted. This is what a table looks like. Not very fancy. These go here. Okay. 3 tables. And then there is a little table. Okay. Table. Here's the square table. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, and this little table here goes here, and it has 8 chairs around it. So there's no room to put your elbows. In fact, there's practically no room to even put your plates. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking there. It's probably an officer's table because these are chairs and not benches. But, yep, can't eat there. Okay, these bits that still need to be cleaned up in canister. These pieces I'm going to set over here like this to remind me that off stream I can now prime those. And this part is going to be heavily modified. I am going to take the top off because it blocks the view of a really nice kitchen. So I'm going to just cut it off here and here and then file down the top so it's smooth and even. Yeah. Continuing with submarines. So on Wednesday, there is a possibility for at least a portion of the stream that I will be not doing submarine on Submarine Wednesday, but doing Nine's token. If that doesn't work out, I will continue with the submarine. Yeah, so here it is. Here's some progress in terms of the bunk room and the galley and the recreational lounge kind of area thing. I look at things, there's always something. What's going on there? Okay, if this is something I need to fix, I'm going to fix it off stream. Yeah, that's just really bad. I'm going to continue for just a couple of seconds, but there's a spot that just appeared that wasn't there before that needs to be despotted. because it's going to show as I was looking at the direction. It's like some of the brown here. It's a little spotted brown. Needs to be white. Sure what's happening there. Think a little indentation or something? You got most of it, but it's a little bit more. Okay. It is, in fact, a piece of debris. Yeah. I just needed to get rid of it. Rice is sort of averted. All right. So the next steps on all of this are going to be multiple. Once this is set, I'll be filling in the bottoms here with plastic putty, letting that dry and then sanding it down. I need to do repair work on this floor. I'll let this thoroughly dry, but it looks like I need to sand it down. It's still a little tacky. If I did that now, it would be bad. But this part of the floor shows a lot. So if worse comes to worse, I will just clear out this section of flooring and repaint it. I need to continue working on getting these parts to fit. Okay. The one bulkhead here looks pretty good. The other bulkhead here where the paint was setting up on me doesn't look that good. Again, it's like, well, that gloss might disappear when the paint dries. Let's see what it looks like then. It might be okay. If not, I'll sand it down and take care of it later. And then the backs of them, this is painted green. The very, very bottoms are painted dark gray. And on this one, this whole thing is painted dark gray and the bottom is painted dark gray. So there's a couple of bits of painting that need to be done on those bulkheads before they can be installed. But I'm going to continue plugging away at the mess hall and galley, shaping the parts, priming a couple of these. I think I can prime these and maybe even begin painting some of the detail. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for joining. We'll see you Wednesday, 10-ish, about 10 until about 2, at which time I will either continue to work on the submarine or we'll be doing something completely different. We'll find out on Wednesday. Thanks all. See you then.